Salud, amigos.
Good evening,
Tripulantes de
friends.
nuestra querida
Our crew and of our beloved and contaminated and only spaceship. This is the same one that we
Vaya que sigue
have
generando acontecimientos en pleno desarrollo.
seen and witnessed
Así que
on a Friday night, continuing its course around the sun. And, well, today we finish, for those who manage certain schedules, another week of work. So, Shabbat Shalom, Salam Alaikum, and Pax Bovis. Please remember, those are the three desires for peace of all three Abrahamic religions. And, well, we have common interests in Jerusalem and in the Holy Land. That is the truth of our current times. Well, the topic of the Middle East is, well, I mean, we are obviously still right. All the geopolitics are shifting over there. And Mr. President Trump has realized that, well, of course, the commander-in-chief is also the president of the United States, and they want to lower the political tensions because, after all, he is a businessman. And, well, the Pacific Ocean, which has such large, dire memories for the U.S. Navy, let's suppose that we already crossed the Pacific. We have to recall that there are many wounds that are still open. We won World War II against the Third Reich, but we went to a draw in the Korean War. And in the 38th parallel, well, you must recall we have an armistice here, not a peace treaty. And that is why we have a 24/7 looking at each other at the Korean borders. So an envoy from North Korea has arrived as the old male from the Tsar, not like Miguel Strogov's on a horse. He arrived on a jet with a personal letter from the grandson of Kim Il-sung for the man who is now in the seat of the Oval Office. And this is an interesting question. This is not a sign for good or ill. And here we have him here arriving at the White House. This is an interesting gesture in search for a direct communication. An envoy from North Korea arrives to deliver a letter to President Trump from Kim Jong-un. And here, now we go into the Oval Office. What the leader was escorted into the Oval Office in order to deliver the letter from the leader, Kim Jong-un, to the current man in the Oval Office. Trump and Kim Jong-un will meet in Singapore on June 12th, and he will be pressured into renouncing his nuclear arms. Though on Thursday, he admitted that perhaps he would require more rounds of direct negotiations, which is more realistic. Both Koreas still recall conversations on military matters that have still not yielded any results. And also the topic of the family and of family matters, especially for U.S. pride. There was a communication from the press from the reunification minister of South Korea, who at this moment is in the front lawn of the White House. And so here we are in Korea. And Chung Young-yo says that both North Korea and South Korea decided to hold conversations as soon as possible in order to implement the points at the summit at Panmunjom. First, both agreed to have a military discussions on June the 14th in Tunjing-hak and in other populations in order to ease the military tensions among both armies, and also to discuss the celebration of a meeting between both ministers of defense. This is not a small task or a small achievement. And later on, the president for the Committee for Peaceful Reunification says that both North and South Korea decided to make a joint office in the industrial complex of Kaesong, where all the functionaries from both countries will reside in order to ensure cooperation among both countries and to make close consultation. The meeting and the borderline town that separates both Koreas is the latest scenario of diplomatic activities that has been destined to keep the tensions down between both Koreas. And this is where it was filmed. Here's where they cross the parallel. Conversations on Fridays were directed by the Reunification Minister of South Korea. Ri Sung-won is the president of the Northern Committee for Pacific Reunification of the country. And also, the follow-up of the agreements was continued.
Прежде всего, форум исключительно важен для прямых контактов журналистов.
Very well, the signature of the memorandum for the cooperation of the first summit in the OSS meeting in Shanghai. Here we have the president of the main secretary for the Communist Party in China, and among other authorities. Broadly speaking, all has to do with the aim of lowering tensions in these issues. President Xi Jinping sent a letter of congratulations and observed that the international press has the most important role at this point in this event. 110 mass media chains are present at the moment. China is operating at a high profile, and we must know very well what is the position of each nation. China awaits the actions from Taiwan and also expects its assistance at this summit. This is a very important press conference today. The ministers of the Foreign Affairs Minister of China had some important words to say today. And of course, we welcome those words. This is the beautiful audiovisual creativity for the summit, which is seen at your TV screens. And here is our voicer, Wang Chunying, from the Chinese Chancellor Office, who claims the following. Of course, we welcome Swaziland so that they join the China-Africa Cooperation Society. We hope that at the point when we have the summit for the Cooperation Society between China and Africa, we'll have a happy family. And of course, that relies on the actions of the country of Swaziland. This is the building of the Chancellor's office, and it is the center for the crossing of a lot of very important information. And of course, the participation of China is already a reality. It is not something that is already theoretical. Back in the 70s, it was something absolutely theoretical, and today it is absolutely unstoppable. China stimulates countries into rejecting imperialism with complicated issues that because of this we'll have more protectionism, and that in an unstable world, a responsible country should devise responsible policies and act responsibly and provide positive energy for the world economy. This is and of course, we see that the matter is not improvised at all. This is something very official. So in terms of commercial and economic matters, many countries have shown their concern with unilateralism and protectionism on behalf of the United States. With the deepening of world globalizations and interconnectedness among countries, following a policy of making your neighbor more poor or militarism is not a correct way out of this. All countries, especially those who have the more representative economies, have to firmly oppose commercial protectionism and investment protectionism, as well as safeguard unilateral commerce so that it remains open and egalitarian. China will reduce tariffs to satisfy the demand because the economy grows and the people consume more. Here, the Vice Minister of Finance, Xu Wanyao, says consumer goods are made specifically for satisfying material and cultural needs of the peoples, including fabrics, real estate, foods, etc. These are key for the well-being of the people. Currently, the tariff rates in China is around 14.5%. It is higher than the general tariffs for importations for 9.8%. China has reduced its tariffs for consumer goods in 4 times since 2015 in order to attract influx from abroad and to satisfy the demand from the Chinese people. Of course, these tariffs will apply in around 1,000 products. This could be the single greatest market in Europe or in the United States. And this is the current China, not the one we had 30 years ago, where China was not visited unless it was a very particular interest. Look at all the clusters for containers and the ports. China awaits for its associates to come true on their word and opening commerce. These ports are a very clear demonstration with what we are seeing. Well, the Foreign Affairs Minister, Wang Yi, is a representative of the European Union for external political affairs, says that China has always been true to its word in international affairs, and we hope that the countries do so as well. It was said so in Brussels today. Wang Yi gave his declarations jointly with Federica Lomerini, which is the presentation chief for the European Union, so that this summit at the headquarters of the European Union, where they had a meeting today. China is willing to have a closer relationship with the United States so that we fulfill the consensus reached previously on the principles of mutual benefit for both countries. The top Chinese politician made a wise decision, and while simultaneously stimulating the defense department. A Russian businessman is awaiting for the ASCO summit in order to look for business opportunities. Here we have Andrei Berzhov, speaking to the workers of a factory. This Russian businessman, Yandao, is a fine place for transportation. It has airports and railroads. He began a business in 2000, and I started processing plastic tubes. He has been very successful. Many boxes, many containers at the port that come for his business. This Russian businessman says that in the past summer, when I was watching TV, I figured that the Chinese government opened a new railroad, and I was quite happy because it would solve many problems for us. We have been sending consumer goods and we have been sending the first railroads between China and Europe. We have sent over 50 containers on the first 3 months. The first train station with loaded containers. He was very bold, and of course it paid off. This is the Asian beauty. We have lived in China for 28 years, and we can call it our second hometown. The members of my family live here, my children grew up here, and we love China. Meanwhile, the United Arab Emirates have signed an agreement to stabilize markets. Vladimir Putin, current president of Russia, has signed it as well. And the EAU. Both the Crown Prince and Vladimir Putin have signed on to a strategic association for cooperation in the markets of oil and gas. The idea is to provide stability for the world market of oil, according to the declaration after the signature of this highly important treaty. The President of Russia and the Crown Prince and the representative of the Arab Emirates, they have been quite close to, and this is a hopeful encounter among both of them. This cooperation has an aim to provide stability in the world oil market. And according to this, obviously, there is a great interest, and there's great interest, and of course, this is outside the international politics. Putin said, our joint efforts, including our Arab friends' efforts, including OPEP's initiatives, have yielded good results for the oil market. Abu Dhabi, here we have Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, the Crown Prince. The United Arab Emirates is always looking forward to working with the international community and its friends in order to ensure a promising future not only for us, but for the entire Middle East. Later on, bin Zayed and Putin signed a declaration of a strategic association in order to continue its cooperation with oil and gas markets. Trump claims that we are respected once again. The man wants to be a commander-in-chief, definitely. He is, in fact, but he wants to play at a game that he does not know how to play. He only knows how to make money. Here we just had the presidential introduction. The cannon shootings.
It is now my distinct privilege to introduce our nation's Commander-in-Chief, the 45th President.
Kirstjen Nielsen is now introducing President Trump from the Commander-in-Chief and 45th President of the United States of America, President Donald Trump.
You're doing.
Thank you very much, Secretary Nielsen. You have done a great work here. I am thrilled to be here with the brave men and women of the Coast Guard of the United States. You are the first line of defense of the United States. You are the best of the best. These are exciting times for America. We are being respected again. We're being respected abroad. And we are having our wealth back at home, and it was time for that. We have reached one more historic milestone with an unemployment rate of 3.8%. It was just announced, an unprecedented historical record for African American unemployment and Hispanic unemployment at its lowest as it's ever been. We're fighting for the women out there. The lowest unemployment rate in 19 years.
And I've said this to a
Ya
lot.
se lo he dicho esto a
And
mucha
I have
gente.
said
No creo
this
que
to a
ninguna
lot of
marca
people.
haya ganado
I
más
don't think
ímpetu, haya ganado más que la marca de la
any
Guardia Costera
brand
de
has
Estados
gained
Unidos.
more
La
momentum
gente
than the
tiene un
Coast
gran
Guard of the
respeto
United
por la
States.
Guardia
There is a
Costera de
great
Estados Unidos.
respect for the
Es
Coast Guard
cierto,
of the United
correcto, lo he
States.
dicho
That is
antes.
true. I've said it before.
True, right? I've told you that before. Now, Admiral Zukunft, would you please step forward so we can formally recognize your accomplishments?
Ahora pide al almirante Zunkov
Now he is
un paso
asking
adelante para que
Admiral
podamos
Zunkov
reconocer
so that he
formalmente
steps
su
forward
logro.
so that we can know his accomplishment.
Trump y el comandante de los Guardia Costa juntos.
Trump and
Trump
the Coast Guard
hizo una ceremonia
commander
de cambio de liderazgo en la Guardia Costera
are
de
having
Estados
a
Unidos,
change
lo
of
que estos
guard
tiempos son
ceremony in the United
emocionantes para
States.
Estados Unidos.
These are exciting times for the United States.
Se nos respeta nuevamente, se
We
nos
are
respeta en el
respected
extranjero,
again. We
agregó
are
Trump.
respected abroad, Trump
Bueno,
added.
asistí a la ceremonia
Well,
del almirante Paul Zunkov,
He
que fue llevado al
assisted
almirante
the ceremony
servir
for
como comandante de la
ascension
Guardia
of
Costera.
Paul Sutkov, who is now the commander of the Coast Guard. He also praised the work of Secretary Nielsen, and there was even a rumor that Nielsen was about to quit after being criticized from Trump. And now things have changed, of course.
I stand really.
In a very ceremonious way, there has been a change of command.
President, I'm proud to assume command as 26th Commandant of the United States Coast Guard, sir.
You will be fantastic. Good luck. Thank you, sir.
There have been protests in Georgia in spite of the DA and the DA resigning. We're speaking of the old struggle for racial considerations. Family from dead teenagers from Azar al-Alcisin speaking to the mass media and showing pictures of the dead teenagers. All protesters, I thank all citizens of Georgia who have come to protest. This system must be abolished. The system that has been protested as of yesterday, in spite of the resigning of the DA, many of the protesters demanded the resignation of the entire cabinet. Both teenagers died among a rumble between two schools, and the reaction these were the reactions. Unease increases. For a prime minister in Georgia had to face a very dire problem. Regarding Libya, the main traffickers in Libya have recently killed more than 12 refugees and have wounded many. It is said by the voicer from the UN program, William Spindler. According to them, human traffickers in Libya, I have to say this would have happened with Muammar Gaddafi there. They've killed over 12 people and dozens others after a group of Eritreans and Ethiopians attempted to escape. They take prisoners and they do human trafficking. This incident occurred in Bani Walid, approximately 108 kilometers at the southwest of the capital. And the ships that go into the Mediterranean, for those that are looking for better conditions of life, it is impossible to have more people in a rubber boat, isn't it? Well, the voicer from the refugee program for the UN, William Spindler, says the ACNUR believe that there are many refugees who are hidden in captivity or close to this location. This deadly incident shows the difficulty of the challenge of housing all refugees and rescuing refugees who are fleeing the war, and many of them perish attempting to reach other countries. Let me say that the standard of living in Gaddafi's Libya was comparable to ours, and now the people have to get out. They went into Libya to liberate it, and this is what they caused. Look, we see that all the immigrants that are kicked out of the rubber boats that go into the Mediterranean, and then we have a logistic and humanitarian crisis. This is what they generated in a prosperous country. It is William Spindler once again claims that we still hope that the international community and the assenting countries that take a step forward to protect vulnerable refugees from Libya and beyond. They need international protection. Well, you should have left them with Colonel Gaddafi. They had a very good standard of living and all free services. This is the headquarters of the UE, and the traffickers we have, and we acknowledge that this program for UN relocation program for refugees acknowledge the deaths of all the dozen of deaths yesterday. These people are still closer to the Mediterranean than those in New York. There is no way they will do something more convincing. It is for everyone to see that cameras are right there, and satellite communication. Everybody has access into internet. Does this drama not move them? Does it not touch their soul? Look, I was a witness that with Colonel Gaddafi, they came to speak with Muammar Gaddafi, and he was like a father to all the desert tribes, and nobody left without a solution. He gave the tribes anything they needed. They went to liberate Libya, and this is what happened. They went to liberate Iraq, and this is what happened. We saw what happened. That is a huge hypocrisy. Well, we make a small cut, and we will be back with more events and development.
Venimos del sur, norte, oriente, occidente. Vamos para Rusia, que allá está mi gente.
Little squat man comes in.
One of the greatest storytellers in the soccer history is back.
Es un placer estar de vuelta.
Only on Telesur.
We are always there tracking the news. We seek equality. We defend the truth. It's a hard job, but we are not alone. We count on a new ally.
We're back with more events and with more ongoing events. I see some of the monitors with the protests I've shown you, but they are not. They're not things in anything. They're anything that you haven't seen. So it is June the 1st of 2018. Operational activities. our ambassador with no borders. These are our cruise ships. These are the sails Latin America 2018. Remains in the port of Valparaíso in Chile. Here it is. A little bit northeast of Santiago. You see, because this is such a large area, such a large turnout, there is a change of crew here, so that many of them already made half of that very interesting journey, and we as well fulfill the course, so that all cadets can go into this cruise. Well, it is still in Valparaíso, Chile, and it is fulfilling protocol activities. That is from La Regata. You have to remember this is a fleet. The activities of these are among us. We have to highlight the officers that assisted to the meeting. Arturo Prat from the Chilean Navy, and, well, that was quite a ceremony. We changed our crew there. There was an imposition for La Ravisa, considering all seaman tradition, and the protocol also includes certain ceremonies such as the whistle signaling and others. And there was a change in command in commanders from Colonel Bastidas into another commander, and Enrique Méndez went aboard one of these ships, and Vice Admiral Francisco Carvajal, he is also military ambassador in Chile, and gave the command to the new crew. Both officers have been promoted to this charge. First, they have fulfilled their duty, and of course, they have many expectations for the trip to come, and of course for both of them, with Virgin of the Valley and Almighty God, may they lead them on a safe journey. The Virgin of the Valley, you will know, she is the watcher for our military and our navy. There were 5,000 visitors that came into this. That came to see this ship, and only on the opening day, welcoming the Bolivarian message for peace. We're not expecting a harsh climate at all. They're going to have an easy speed, and it should be easy. So that's the naval glossary. La Ravisa is a thin rope that holds objects on one end, and also a tight knot that goes down into the hull in order to fix said object to the boat. Well, Roseli, Tane Morales, Antonio Mejia Puente, and Ortiz, the captain of the frigate. He is an officer of the Navy, as well as being in charge of operational control. Well, this is regarding these are the news of Bravo Eco 11. That is the name of the ship. And there was a large amount of spectators who wanted to see the cruise. So let's look at more international events, and for that we will refer once again. Here we have Mariano Rajoy. He is exiting Parliament amidst booing and protests. Rajoy, are you still criticizing us, or are you out of chances? A lot of support. They had to protect the president's security was not safe. There was many people that were against this, and there was a safety procedure, Outside the parliament, the protesters are chanting, "Corrupt politicians, get out of the institutions." This is the other side of this other side that they are not showing here. Goodbye, Mariano Rajoy. Wow, that's embarrassing. This didn't happen when we had Francisco Franco, huh? What we remember with nostalgia and love. Well, look at this. I am a widower from Biasa, so these things they don't really concern me. Mariano Rajoy abandoned parliament on this Friday amidst many boos and mockery after the vote of confidence from his detractors. Pedro Sanchez is now the leader of Spain in amidst a corruption scandal. Sanchez, after a motion for confidence, salutes the exiting minister. Well, Rajoy applauds while he leaves the parliament. You see what was awaiting for Rajoy outside. The socialist leader, Pedro Sanchez, assumed the charge of prime minister in Spain after a mistrust vote demoted Mariano Rajoy. That was a small song, a quick song from the Civil War. A little bit of that socialism had to stay in those genes. Mariano Rajoy had to leave because of a corruption scandal that included the party of center-right, and it was won for 180 votes against 169 votes and against. So legislators applauded when Sanchez, who promised to lead the country until the mid 2020. Well, I am well aware of the political situation, that it is complex in our country, and what I can tell you is that I'm not only am I fully aware of it, I will approach all the challenges in our countries with humility, with all my efforts, in order to transform, modernize our country, which is what the Socialist Party has done always, and to address the issues of peoples that are affected by inequality. How will I do it? I will do it with consensus, with a lot of work capabilities, and with all my efforts. Well, Socialist Pedro Sanchez assumed the charge of the Prime Minister in Spain after Mariano Rajoy was demoted because of a prolonged trial for corruption, which involved his party of center-right. The IDEX index in Spain increases 2% after Rajoy leaves, and of course that is an improvement, an immediate improvement. And here we have the screens, and here we see that there is a confidence recovery once Rajoy has exited. And and it's the first time that the market in Spain has gone down with a changing government. It said the financial journal in Spain declared. Boons fell this Friday because investors welcomed the end of a political crisis also in Italy, even though the perspective of a commercial war and fallout a commercial trade war threatened the profits. So Sanchez and investors see less risk in Spain than in Italy, and that's why there were many transferences into Spain. This is the thermometer. The stock market is very sensitive to change because there are few things are less brave than money in the hands of those who have a lot of it. They feel very comfortable with the change because we do not have to indicate that this is not any change. This is a change in times. Rajoy believed that he would be there forever, and well, in Argentina, for example, they protest in order to demand for jobs and social benefits, and this, of course, shows that the stock market, such as the stock market in Madrid, has several ups and downs. And this shows, of course, that this was no joke. And where we go into Buenos Aires and we see that when we have protests, we have real protests. Thousands of workers going out with their signs. Where to? Of course, into May Plaza with banners that demand bread and work. Of course, here we have the banners for Che Guevara and Evita Perón. She was responsible for keeping the masses together with a mystical union. And also the good use of the radio back in those days. Thousands of workers who were working with going into work, marching into Plaza de Mayo with the banners asking for bread and jobs.
Porque el Fondo Monetario Internacional le propone mayor ajuste, inclusive. Mayor ajuste significa también mayor despido. Entonces, en esa situación, nos mandan a la desesperación a miles de familias con un angustiante de que en muchos lugares realmente no tienen ni para comer.
They have nothing to eat in the grain store of the world. We're going to have decrease in consumption. The situation will only worsen. Sadly, we believed that this stage of being held by the IMF would be favorable, but this government in 2.5 years, they drove us back into hell. Well, wherever the IMF goes, we know what happens. So we have here the nostalgia once again. The unforgettable Evita for the working class. Well, what are they demanding for? Well, of course, jobs and more network support networks. Protests, the most recent protests after Macri announced that the paquetazo just began. There is uncertainty in Nicaragua after all cease of dialogue. This is based on the platform of transport and infrastructure. They decided to set all the stores on fire. Nicaraguan people await the decision after the cessation of dialogues with the church interventions. On Thursday, it was said that given the conditions, we had to call to dialogue once again. And I am seeing something that piece of news that just updated us. And we see that in Chile, Chilean feminists march to the public account of Piñera. The Chilean president presents his accounts, and feminist movements are being repressed by security forces. Feminist organizations want to protest in Chile because of the repression that there is due to the presentation of of public accountability. Apparently, they've been filtered already. And so, university students promoted these protests. They demand an education that is not sexist. It is unbelievable that they still have to fight for this. Feminists marched into Congress, but they were received by a contingent that dispersed them with hydration cars. Such gentlemen, huh? Piñera is expected to make reference to it on his first trip regarding health, pensions, childhood, etc. Did you know that Chile has no free education? That is unbelievable. Feminist groups in Chile denounced the unwillingness of President Piñera to speak to them. They give benefits for those who were processed by political violence in Venezuela. Just released. The re-elected government of President Maduro, as part of the new stage of dialogue and reconciliation for the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, on today, Friday, process benefits were announced for a group of 39 people who were detained who protested in 2017. They only wanted to take down the government. They have full liberties. They're on parole and on observation, and other alternative ways of fulfilling their sentence. On Friday, there was a meeting with opposing leaders and the Constituent Assembly in order to address the aggressive movements that were promoted by the right in Venezuela, who left over 100 dead and many costly damages. We have to know that the path is not hate, it is not intolerance. This is not the first liberation or the releasing of prisoners. Last month, we already had some of them in order to advance the agenda for reconciliation. The Bolivarian government is in the best disposition. This is a literal citation for sincere and constructive dialogue. The superior interest is for the interest of the country and the peoples. The doors are open for those who want to work in peace and reconciliation. So, the commander-in-chief insists that these prisoners add themselves to dialogue in order to speak of peace. This is an interesting note that we added to the show. This is Lady Gomez. The necessity of bringing confidence into the country so that all sectors of the Venezuelan society may begin to see hopes in the policies that are assumed without violence, and the violence that is assumed with responsibility, in politics that is assumed without complexes, and the policy that is assumed in order to answer to a people who wants their hope back, because there are millions of Venezuelans who want to remain in Venezuela, and we want to still build our country, improving our conditions. That is why we're here, and that is why we represent the families of these political prisoners that still have a hope with our presence here. So, this is the House of Government and the President of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. He is awaiting new policy for dialogue between Spain and Venezuela.
Bueno, hoy en España hubo un proceso que respetamos. Ha sido destituido Mariano Rajoy de la presidencia del gobierno. Se fue. Déjeme decirle que en este momento era el mejor momento que teníamos relaciones Mariano y yo. Mariano y yo estábamos recomponiendo nuestras relaciones. No eran idílicas, pero eran mejores. Por eso Bueno, me sorprendió que se fuera tan rápido, casi sin
I was
despedirse.
surprised that they had to leave so quickly. That wasn't the best moment with my relationships with Rajoy. We don't meddle in the Spanish the politics of Spain, and we hope that the new government of the new president, Pedro Sánchez, can build a new vision, a new perspective on Venezuela, and also that they may open new policies for understanding and mutual respect for Venezuela. I hope we have respectful relationships for integral cooperation between Spain and Venezuela, and also to overcome the bitter times of interventionisms that have occurred in Spain. I respect and I respect and I respect again. Nicolás Maduro declared that the United States, as expected, I say this, not him, will go with a financial blockade. I bet today that, as Diosdado said, that he is betting on sanctions, and more sanctions and economic and financial blockades on Venezuela to harm the country. Threats from the imperialists to governments from Latin America and the Caribbean in order for them to condemn Venezuela so that they betray Venezuela. Threats to governments in the Caribbean so that they betray Venezuela and that they add themselves to the ignominy that they have on OAE against our country. The old and finished American state organization. That is one line, and the other one is to provoke an event, some coup d'etat maybe on our country. A considerable part from the opposition of extremist sectors, they only concentrate their daily activities in conspiring to make a coup d'etat on this country. We know. And we have dismantled extremist opposition groups that wish to make a coup. These are the two lines of actions that we have to confront. I ratify my call to dialogue. Well, that is the repeated call from President Maduro, as repeated once again. Whoever can listen, well, they should head their call. Either way, here we have a plan. The old plan is, of course, to stabilize it, of course. We do that so that we have a chance to intervene. Why? We say it again. No. Yes? Okay, fine. The greatest wealth in oil is right here. Not only that, but biodiversity, also rare earth metals and strategic resources, also more water. And some take down some of our brothers, well, they just bend over and take it from the United States, from those who want to have this strategic reserve, because the other oil is not 4 or 5 days away from Texas. The rest of the oil is passing on the bottleneck of Hormuz, and 40 to 45 days in the sea, and this supposes, of course, that they have to sail very difficult waters. And with that sorry person who is in the Oval Office, not only he's a huge businessman in the sense that he became a multi-millionaire, now he wants to be a commander-in-chief, and he is attempting to modify the geopolitical area. Where are all the strategic reserves? Well, here, and with our neighbors in the sisterly Republic of Colombia. Oh, I'm sorry, they're NATO now. I was there in NATO in Germany. I know how things work over there, but the experience is not transferable, and I can't provide it to you right now. We do that in another space, but the fact is that it is shameful what our Colombian brothers are doing. Either way, God is up there, and he knows very well who is who. Please don't go into statistics. This is Friday, thank God it's Friday. Shabbat Shalom, Assalamu Alaikum, and Pax Bovis. Let's remember that in this grace land called the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, we have the great confluence of Abrahamic religions, and let's recall that if you don't find it here, or that if you find it at an exaggerated price, that is what is called the new asymmetric war, so that we go against what we call the most exemplary democracy in Venezuela, and which was began with our president. He said, we have overviewed more than 65, I believe it's more than 70 electoral results in Venezuela. And he said that the electoral system in Venezuela is the best in the world. Well, Shabbat Shalom, Assalamu Alaikum, Pax Bovis. Don't go into the statistics. We want to see you on Monday. Your word, Mr. Director.
Queremos verdad, reparación integral, pero sobre todo justicia, pero justicia.